Hey there everyone, this is Dandy Dragon, and today we're going over something a little bit more specific, and I want to give a shout out to Dark Shogun. He helped me make this video. We were doing a 1v1, and for those who don't know him, he is a Twitch streamer and a YouTuber. He is just recently getting started, so give him a shout out, give him a look. But the main premise, what we're going over today, is how do I push a base, especially from feudal. And under the concept you're going against a very defensive civ or a very strong like feudal civ like English. If we look at his base, he's already got farms up. He can easily start getting more, have a very solid economy. He's leading me by 12 vils. He went to TC. By all rights, he is ahead of me in just about every way. So we're going to kind of just look for how do we handle this situation. Now, obviously, just looking at the opponent's comp, he's making Spearman Archer, so we want Archer Knight to kind of just take this on. And he does have greater mass than me, so we don't want to fight him head on if we don't have to, so we are going to retreat from this fight. So, looking at his base, what is open? He has a wood line down here that's open, he's got food vills, and he's got his gold vills. He's not out on the map, so there's not a lot for me to pressure and push into. So we're just going to kind of have to scour his base a little bit to really find an opening. Now, little bit of mistake on my part. We're going to have these archers that were forward, and they're just going to get taken out. That's a huge loss for me. That's like, that's like 160 resources, I believe. Yeah, 160 resources I just kind of wasted there. Don't want to be making those sort of mistakes. Now, we did put in early pressure. And he went for the second TC, so we do have map control, or at least we did. I would still say we have fairly decent map control. We're kind of split. So I am free to do something like Pro Scouts, so that way I don't run out of food anytime soon while fighting a more advantaged, more bolstered, heavier economy opponent. Now, when your opponent is this kind of defended up, you're really just looking for a way to keep them busy while you try to catch up. So I know my opponent has gone to TC for a while. He has a great economy. So we're going to drop double markets and we're going to try to trade to get caught up with him while getting raids on his vills. We know he's got this choke all walled up, or not walled up, but kind of taken control of, because he's got all these spearmen here, the archers, he's got the towers, but he doesn't have military in the back line. So we are going to be able to get up on his backline and just start hitting vills hard, which will help us kind of equalize there. With 8 vill kills, we did get one earlier in the fight. Yep, he does get a scout, but I'll take the scout trade for 8 vills. Well, technically 7. We got one earlier. When he tried to make the second TC, he tried to put it forward next to the Abbey of Kings up here, and we were able to get 1 vill during that. Now, here we see our opponent decided to take this engagement thinking he could win. And now these are the sort of things that you actually need to be doing while you're fighting your opponent. You're looking for engagements, not just on vills, but on anything that you can win. So I see he's throwing mostly archers into a few knights. And yeah, I'll lose a knight here, but I will clean up his military. And he will lose more here than what I'll lose, because the mass of his spears were back defending over here, and now he has to separate out a few units to defend that line. So despite him having like 10 to 12 more units than me, now we're about the same. Plus, I've nearly equalized our economies in terms of the damage done, and I'm starting to produce these traders. And when going against a boom civ, or against a civ that isn't a boom civ like a Bassid, you're usually going to be able, if you take map control, to switch into a secondary eco source like trade or something of that sort. If you have corner markets like this or this, you're honestly always better off going markets than a second TC to catch up, just because the trade will be an infinite resource option and it'll start paying off faster than the villagers. It takes forever for these villagers to come out, which is going to kind of delay your timings. Now here, we're going to obviously just kind of poke and prod, see what damage we can do or if we can fight it. And trading an archer for a longbow is fine. That's not great, not awful. And we while I was doing this, I grabbed a hold like this to see how many spears he had. So I looked at my opponent, saw he had 24 spears to my 17 knights with Joan and 8 archers, and I realized I can beat his spears faster than he can beat my knights, as long as I have my heal here, which is going to allow me to trade up with the military. And just a little bit of micro to protect the knights, because I don't want them in sustained fighting. I'd rather just let these archers die and kill as many of the spears as possible. And because I'm Joan, I do get these Joan's champions, which I will leave to just clear up the rest of them. Because it's only the spears that are an issue for my Knight Corps. And you notice I sacrificed the archers, I even sacrificed Joan, just to keep these knights alive. Because from here on, now I can clean up the rest of his army and I can still win. So suddenly, despite his eco advantage that he had, with one good raid and one good decisive fight, we now have more military, and our economy is almost equalized with him. Just a little bit better micro with my macro there, and we can get that finished. Now our opponent has to make one of two decisions. Is he going to continue fighting us in feudal now that he's behind on military, or is he going to try to age up and speed run his economy? He doesn't have a lot of vills on food, relatively speaking, if he was going to go for a fast age up, and he has a lot of gold, so it's kind of an awkward position. He's probably trying to balance his economy right now. He needs to pull off of his gold and get on food, just try to get the age up faster or to get more military. Especially with that gold amount, he needs to probably age up. But here we can see that the difference in economies slowly but surely will continue to get equalized as I double produce traders, and we're going to prepare to push his base. Now he's got a decent sized forest here, still not enough to win a fight. And let's say he had aged up, instead of making half this military to drop a white tower right here, he would be pretty defensive, and the white tower could probably hold back my army for a bit. And now the idea is, when do I push my opponent? Usually by the 15 to 16 minute mark, you're going to have gained either enough of a lead, or your opponent is going to have started to age up, giving you a window to attack. And which is what we have here almost exactly. And I will say, this game was not scripted. We both were playing to genuinely try and win. So Shogun here is not just giving me a victory, he is going to actually try to do stuff here. So here you see he's going to have the resources. He's going to try to age up here in a second. We're going to kind of speed forward. Meanwhile, I'm getting ramps to push his base, knowing that I'm ahead militarily because I won those earlier engagements. Yep, and we can see here he's going for that age up, pulling a lot of vills. Yep, his wood vills for that. He's going to keep vills on food and gold so he can continue producing military as soon as he age up. And seeing this tower going up and the military difference, we're going to immediately start to push this. Because if we can kill his military, that allows us room to go raid his backline. Or if we do enough damage here, we may even be able to kill his white tower. The Rams are immediately going to get on that. And you can see here, I'm going to continue producing Rams, but I'm going to do it in the backline, because I don't actually need to throw all my archers forward to do this, and we just need to focus on this fight. So we're going to kind of just get an extra ram back there, continue pressing it, and here most of my military focus and most of my APM is going to be focused on this battle, because if I can take down the white tower, this whole age up, all the resources he spent, will have been for nothing. So he's low on wood because he pulled wood vills to get this up initially, so he doesn't have a stockpile. And then on top of that, we did a lot of damage early, and we had a lot of military that was out here fighting him. So now suddenly that white tower he got to kind of save himself is gone down, leaving his whole kind of flank open to continue being pressured, and he has no military, so we can kind of continue pulling things forward and hitting things as necessary. Like I said before, we're just going to leave a couple archers in the back line producing additional rams. And most people would just try to force down the Abbey of the Kings and then the TCs and then just win. But here instead, we're actually going to focus on taking out the towers and anything that's in our way that's blocking our pathing. So that way we can kind of slow down his roll, so to speak. Because without the tower, not only does it remove his vision, it can help remove his attack speed buff, which will allow us to kind of gain that advantage. And here, we're just going to start going for his military production. If we look at his base, he's played against me and knows how I play and how like a base should be pushed. So immediately, he's going to try to make more production in the back to keep up his military production in general, because I'm going to go for that first and foremost. You see, going for the housing, we're not worried about the TCs. We're worried about letting him catch back up with us. So his way of catching back up with us is to continue booming and to win fights and to just kind of be efficient in every way possible. So we're going to focus on defending the rams, sniping out whatever we can, and we're only going to engage the knights when we have to. We were going to try and get some additional rams built over there, but he spots it out with the king, and we are going to be able to pull the archer back and lead his king back to the fight. And you can see he can't afford to garrison up, because if he does, he'll idle out his food or his wood, and he needs everything he has to continue producing military because he lost it earlier. So waiting until after we had a moment of advantage to push is what's forcing this very awkward engagement for our opponent. All the while, we'll have trade in the background. We got villagers gathering out. We're still not even on a farm transition. And here, now that we've beaten his military, we can send the knights to start harassing the vills while the archers stay back to protect the rams in case he tries to dive them. So now he's forced to garrison, and you can see he has no food left in reserve, which is why he wanted to keep them on farms to begin with, because his army will be destroyed very quickly because he can't mass it. While he waits to mass it, now I'm free to hit his secondary TC and slow down his economy, which also leaves all these vills out in the open. And now I can try to focus down his second TC, now that I've gained the advantage, which will, here, a bit of bad micro, I focus the king. If I had A-mood my knights sooner, I could have killed a lot of these vills, but I will catch them eventually, but not before I lose some rams. And this is why you don't always focus down the TC. So for instance, let's say I had, instead of fighting the TC, I came over here and I A-moved through. I could have destroyed his housing, and my knights could have been fighting this military while it was still small. 14 knights will 100% destroy this military, and there's not a lot he could do. And then let's say my knights and my rams are down here. I could send my archers around the side, and I could get on his wood line and start taking out vills. The only reason I'm forcing the engagements like this is because I have enough of an advantage, having aged. I have denied his age up basically by killing the white tower. I have an eco lead because I did a bunch of raids. You can see 33 vills down, and I have trade going on. So my economy is going to equalize with him pretty well, but my knights will continue to now raid, because here it's not about the killing the buildings as it is just taking my opponent out as much as I can. We are going to destroy the Abbey of the Kings now that it's undefended, and we'll just pull back to our rams. I don't need to fight him head on unless I can make the fight to my advantage. Now, once again, I could do a lot of things here. My military is clearly going to win the fight because of numerical numbers. Just, you know, 40, like, feudal archers will beat 10 castle crossbow. So I'm willing to take this fight here. And you'll see that now my rams are just going for houses. And that's because my biggest goal here is to just pop cap him. He needs to idle out his vills to build production now that his production up there was lost. He needs to build more houses to maintain the military. And you see we're going castle behind this while still having a great economy. My opponent doesn't have a lot of answers. And now we're just going to focus down with the archers. We're going to take out whatever we can. And he's going to continue bleeding economy to stop these rams. Now, he could pull the rams or the vills back and just ignore the rams, but then he's just going to lose vills or housing pop, and he would have to spend his time idled there. So he doesn't really have a good answer for this sort of push. And I can afford to sit under TC in this way because of the fact that I've done so much damage, as we can see here. And we're not even going to just focus the TC. The knights are going to get in, and even the archers. Like, at this point, we can ignore the TC and just go for the vills. We don't have to worry about his TC causing us issues, because once again, he lost his military. We weren't focused on destroying his TC, we're focused on winning the fights, which means that his army is gone and he's running out of food. So now he has to throw vills out onto the map to get resources. And for instance, he could gather these berries and stuff, try to get his economy fixed up. But that's a lot to do while trying to micro fights, protect your villagers. And it's just, for him, it's just a lot of panic. He's lost half his base. He went castle, lost the White Tower. And so he doesn't have a lot of options left to him. So here, now that we've kind of beaten him down, we can kind of pull back. We don't have to take unnecessary engagements. Once you've kind of beaten your opponent and you've denied enough resources, killed enough vills, killed enough military, his army still can't beat mine. So I'm free to sit back, get all my upgrades for my knights and my archers, get additional rams. Once again, I have Joan, and this whole time Joan was getting XP, so now I have a cannon. So all these little things of just putting on this consistent pressure and just not throwing away military needlessly. If I'm going to fight, I want them to be getting value. And of course, I'm getting eco behind my pressure, so I'm not just out of the game. Oh, didn't mean to click that. And you see here, now that we have castle knights, we can just delete these men-at-arms. And obviously the archers will take out the crossbow. And my opponent doesn't have good options. So now we can kind of go for the kill. This is where we can finally be like, okay, I'm just going to focus down the TC. There's nothing he can do. The knights can just run rampant, and you can see these units, they're no longer like, I'm not attacking the TC, I'm just going to let the ramps do their work. Instead, I'm going to pull as many archers and knights to kill vills as possible. The whole purpose of that sort of push is that we're trying to trade efficiently. Now, as I said before, if there's a situation where it's just the TC forward and he has a bunch of backline production, you don't have to fight under the TC. You can go for the production. I could have easily just went down that right flank or down the left flank and went around and started killing farms, killing production, killing housing. And and when I first pushed, that was what I focused. I wanted to make sure my opponent was forced into an engagement, that they had to throw military into me needlessly, because if they don't fight me, then I get to kill all his landmarks for free. But so he had to fight me, had to lose military. Once he made those engagements, now I'm left free to go put on pressure on him however I want. I can dive vills, I can just snipe out crossbow. And at that point, once you've boomed alongside your opponent as you press their base, you're kind of just left free to kind of push as you want, and you can just trade military. If I trade 3 archers for 2 crossbow, I'll make that trade at that point because my economy is better. But if my economy is not better, I'm just going to be very precise, very careful, avoid the TC, and only push the houses and the farms. And later on, I can show a more specific video on that, but that is generally kind of the mentality of how you want to be pushing a base as a feudal civ, whether they boomed, whether they went castle. Whenever you're looking for those openings, that's how you're pressing that. Hope that was helpful for everybody, and hopefully I'll catch you all in the next video. Y'all take care.